All right, kids. Guess this is the sixth video that we're doing here. Just going to kind of continue from our conversation on Monday. And again, I got a lot more survey responses. A lot of you guys, the overwhelming thing that I took away is that you guys like these. You prefer these videos to me just giving you work, or giving you a something to read and do stuff. And honestly, I prefer it too. I kind of half feel like I'm semi-normal, like I'm speaking to you guys rather than I don't like just giving you guys work and clicking buttons. This is although we're not doing a live class, which I'll maybe offer that going forward if we have interest in it. But it kind of feels a little less impersonal than me just giving you something to read and click on. And again, some people like if I can the night before, especially on the Monday ones where I'm giving you the assignment on Mondays. I'm going to give you the assignment to do. I'll try to post that on Sunday night. Some people really liked me doing that. Overwhelming. Also, people really didn't like Kess Learning. A couple of people preferred it, but over most of you guys do not like Castle Learning. I'll try to limit it. The good thing about Castle Learning and my favorite part about Castle Learning is it gives me data. I know it's questions. No one likes to take tests for the most part, but it gives me lets me know what you guys are struggling with. So if I give you a 10-question assignment and one question you guys stink at, I can come back and focus on that question. So I'll try to honor that. I'll try to limit it to where we're getting towards the end when we do of each unit. We only have 2 units left. So at the end of each unit, I'll give you kind of some sort of assessment in that way, just to check for understanding. But yeah, a lot of good feedback from the survey. I enjoyed getting that back from you guys, seeing what you like, seeing what you don't like, and I'm going to try to implement all the suggestions that I can and limit the things that you don't like. I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible. So going forward, we're just going to spend more time on moisture and dew point and relative humidity and cloud formation. So this is another thing. We all see clouds, right? Right now it's a cloudy day. I'm making this video a little bit late. My son he has his own little class. He had to do some things, so I had to do that with him this morning. But it's a cloudy day outside, right? You can't see the sun. So why do we have clouds? What's the reason for that, right? And clouds is just it's just moisture, right? It's just moisture in the air, and the cloud base, how high the clouds are dependent upon a lot of things. It's dependent upon the temperature of the air mass and the dew point, right? So this is essentially, I'm going to work through the OneNote here. I'll post this too. I need to post this all on your notes. I'm trying to figure out how to kind of seamlessly do that. But this is how clouds form. Warm air rises, when you go into your attic, right? You've heard me talk about that before. Your mom tells you to go get the 4th of July decorations up in the attic. No one wants to do that, right? In the 4th of July, it's hot up there. Warm air rises, right? It expands and it cools to the dew point, right? The dew point, that keyword, it's the point at which dew forms, that magic temperature that if you hit it, if the dew point's here, right? The dew point is right here and the temperature comes down and meets it, you're going to have moisture. You're going to have clouds. You're going to have dew, right? In the morning, you have dew on the grass. Why is it only in the morning that the grass is all wet? Right? Well, that's because that's the coldest part of the day, right? About 4 a.m. is the coldest part of the day. And that's like when you take an ice cold can out of the fridge and it has a condensation on, right? And actually advertising companies use that visual to sell things, right? They have a vending machine. They don't have a picture of just a dry can of Coke or Pepsi. It always has like the dew running down it because it triggers something in your brain. That's cold, right? There's an ice cold soda or Snapple or whatever drink in there. It's not just usually a picture of it that has some sort of moisture on it. That's because they're trying to visualize just that scientific thing of dew point, right? It's cold, it's refreshing. You look at something that has condensation on it, you know it's cold. That means it's at or below the dew point. So clouds, they form when the temperature hits the dew point. So again, clouds are likely to form when the air is saturated, right? Soaked, the air is filled, right? An air mass has a limit of how much moisture it can have. The warmer the air mass, the more moisture it can have. So when the air is filled, right, you have condensation occur. It's filled with water. The temperature is at the dew point. That was one of your questions, right? If the temperature is 30, right, and it's raining, well, the dew point's 30, right? It's got to be the same. That's what happens when it's rain. The temperature and the dew point are the same. And condensation nuclei available has got to be a little tiny thing for it to grab onto, and it's really tiny and small. So if you're catching raindrops in your mouth, you're catching condensation nuclei, but this is about a raindrop size, a cloud droplet size. This is about the condensation nuclei, so a tiny, tiny microscopic thing that needs to kind of glob around, right? So that's how clouds are formed, right? Air rises, it expands, and it cools to the dew point, right? And one thing you'll notice, and I always get this question, kind of a paradox, right? You go up in your attic, that's the hottest part, right? Because warm air rises. You go to your basement, that's the coldest part of your house, right? And when warm air rises, but as you go up in the atmosphere, it gets colder. So why, when you go up in your attic, is it warmer? And if you go up in the atmosphere, you go to the top of the mountain, it's colder, right? That has to do with the air masses in the atmosphere as we're getting kind of farther away from the ground that's re-radiating, right? And how thin the atmosphere is in our troposphere. And it flip-flops, right? As you look on that chart on your reference tables. So as air temperature increases, the air can hold more water, right? So a 90-degree day can hold more moisture than a 30-degree day. And a way we measure this is something called a sling psychrometer. I call it an earth science nunchuck, right? I don't have one with me. I left it at school. But you basically spin this guy around. One side down here has a wet bulb, and one has a dry bulb. When you have a wet bulb, it's wet. It's like basically a thermometer with a little wet sock around the bottom. And when you spin it, it's like if you get out of the shower or you get out of the pool, you get out of the ocean, what sensation do you get right when you get out of the water? You're cold. You feel cold, right? Why do you feel cold when you get out of the water? That's because your body is evaporating. It's taking away energy, right? And it's getting colder. And the same thing when we spin a wet thermometer, it gets colder. And the amount of evaporation is dependent upon how much moisture is in the air mass. So things evaporate faster on a dry, hot day, right? If it's raining outside, right, and you have something wet, it's not going to evaporate. Even if it's covered, it's not going to evaporate as fast as on a dry day because the air is filled with water. There's not much space for it to fill up, right? So if you took a sponge and you're trying to dry a surface, right, a dry sponge will soak it up. A wet sponge is not going to soak up anything. So this helps us determine what the wet bulb and dry bulb is. There's a wet bulb, which determines the dew point. There is a dew point and relative humidity chart on your reference tables on page 12, but guess what? One of the silver linings of this whole thing is, well, you don't have a Regents, and I can skip over that chart. It's really not super important, I think, long term. So I'm going to skip over the technical things with that chart, but I want to make sure you get the concept of dew point and relative humidity. Dew point, point at which dew forms, right? Relative humidity, how humid is it outside? 100% humidity, right? It's raining. 0, it's super dry like the desert. And we go down here, relative humidity versus air temperature, right? It is an indirect relationship. As the temperature increases, relative humidity decreases, right? So it's an inverse relationship. If we raise the air temperature, the humidity is going to go down, right? And again, as dew point increases, the amount of moisture in the air increases as well. So again, you're thinking of it like this. When they get close together, the dew point and temperature, when they get close together, humidity increases and the likelihood of precipitation also increases, right? So that's the big thing with moisture. So today is a cloudy day. Yesterday was dry, right? It was a beautiful day. Today it's cloudy. It was sunny this morning, right? And now it's getting cloudy, and later it's supposed to rain. So what's happening? Yesterday, the dew point and the temperature were here, right? And then overnight started getting closer, closer. Right now it's cloudy, it's getting closer. And guess what? Well, throughout the day, they're going to get closer, and eventually they're going to meet. The dew point and the temperature are going to be the same, and you're going to have precipitation later. Unfortunately, it's been like not great weather, for to be locked at home. So we'd have way too many days of rain, but that whole spring showers thing. So hopefully we get some dry, sunny weather, a spell of it going forward. The last thing to talk about This chart we're going to spend a lot of time on next week from your reference tables, right? And I want you to focus right here. We're going to talk about air masses. I'm not going to talk about this other stuff yet. We're going to hit it, but I'm going to talk about air masses. We talked about temperature. We talked about moisture. And an air mass is defined by those two things. Like it's a mass of air. It's defined by its temperature, right? And its moisture content. So the two big things, continental, right, means it's dry. It formed over a continent. Continents are dry, right? Maritime is wet. Think of marine. Think of SUNY Maritime. If you've ever drove over the Throgs Neck Bridge, you see SUNY Maritime there, or you know someone that's going to SUNY Maritime. I had one of my wrestlers go to SUNY Maritime, and he majored in shipping and doing things on boats, right? So that's what you go to that college for. Actually, one of my neighbors doing the same thing at SUNY Maritime. They focus on marine stuff. So maritime, water, wet, formed over the water, continental, dry. And then the temperature is next to it. Arctic or polar is cold, tropical is warm. And that's how we define our air masses, just these little letters here. Continental Arctic is dry and cold. Maritime tropical, right, is warm and wet, right? We can combine these factors to determine what is the characteristic of an air mass. So that's it for today, guys. Sorry for the late video. I had my house is crazy this morning. All my kids are doing their virtual school too, so we had to help them with that. Get your stuff, though, just those 10 questions. I'm keeping it simple. I'm keeping it light. Get that in by Friday because you're going to have a whole week. Once those grades start going in, that's it. They're going to be in. They're going to be locked in. I'm going to start being more rigid with accepting work late because I'm not hammering you guys. So hope you guys are well. And again, if you guys have any suggestions, anything you like, feel free to shoot me anything anytime. I'm going to try to make this experience as good as possible. So I'll talk to you guys later.